Throughout the Western world, an Illuminati dynasty made up of a Jewish Khazar bloodline has for generations controlled the destiny of nations and of peoples. Wars, bloodshed, revolution, economic depression, and misery, this powerful bloodline and clan has thrived and prospered on the backs of others. That bloodline, that Jewish dynasty, is the Rothschilds.
In your day, there will be many wars in Europe. A nation that have money to transport will come to the Rothschilds because it will be safe.
In this, the 21st century, such men as Lord Jacob Rothschild, his son Nathaniel, Eric Rothschild, David de Rothschild, are the undisputed masters of finance. They operate throughout Europe and Switzerland, Italy, especially France, and in Great Britain, in the United States, and in Asia, and on the African continent. And their influence extends in the United States to the Midwest metropolis of Chicago, in the state of Illinois, where, incidentally, the zip code is 60606. Yes, in Chicago, the Rothschild combine operates, and it is from this great bustling city of commerce, Chicago, a city riddled with mafia gangsterism, stock and commodity market corruption, political intrigue, and satanic ritualism. But surprisingly, it was not the Al Capones and the Italian or Sicilian mafias that controlled Chicago and rampaged across the United States of America, but the Jewish mafia. Yes, behind the Italians were the Jews. In 1919, a man named Arnold Rothstein, the Jewish fixer, made sure that the 1919 World Series would be an affair to remember. It was the occasion of the infamous Black Sox baseball scandal, in which 8 players of the Chicago White Sox threw the World Series to enrich the gamblers and Mr. Arnold Rothstein. Mr. Rothstein was so honored by his Jewish associates in crime that he was called at one time the King of the Jews. Later came Chicago's Sidney Korshak, a man who was so powerful among the crime organization kingpins that according to recently released documents, we discovered that Korshak was the mob's boss of bosses. It appears that Italian mafiosa, men like Sam Giancana, Roselli, and others worked for him, as did Jewish thugs, men like Meyer Lansky, Bugsy Siegel, Mickey Cohen, all bowed before the authority of Chicago's Sidney Korshak. Some say it was Korshak who ordered the hit on President John F. Kennedy in 1963. And this Jewish mafia crime wave continues to this very day in the 21st century, with men such as the kickback conman Tony Rezko in Chicago, ousted Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich with ties to Rahm Emanuel, where a young man, partially black and partially white, was chosen, groomed, trained, promoted, and elevated to the highest government office on planet Earth. His name, Barack Hussein Obama. His destiny, 44th President of the United States of America. But who really is Barack Obama? He came up like a meteor from nowhere, only a short 2 years or less as U.S. Senator from Illinois. What are his origins? Who made him what he is today? Who is Barack Obama? Of course, we've seen all the images in all the magazines, on film, television, newspapers, everywhere we go, the visage, the image, the pictures of Barack Hussein Obama. He is feted, acclaimed, praised, honored, revered everywhere he goes. Newsweek called this ours the age of Obama. He has a lovely wife, we are told, gorgeous children, a perfect family man. Some, of course, say that Barack Obama is arrogant, proud. Many others tear up at the very sight of the man. at the sound of his oratorical voice. They break into tears upon meeting him and being presented with this man, this mystery man, the 44th President of the United States. It is said that he represents all of the people, and that by studying and knowing who Obama is, we will find out who we are now. We know that he's president. We know he had a historic victory. But we also know that the Illuminati, in their Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, Protocol number 10, stated that they would choose our presidents for us, our leaders, that their president would be taken from the mob, from the midst of those, that is, you and I, who they call their puppet creatures, their slaves. Is Barack Obama a president taken from the mob? Is he a puppet? Is he a slave? Are we all? It's interesting that President Bill Clinton, in 1998, during a visit to Israel, said something interesting. He casually mentioned, he said, you know, by the time you become the leader of a country, someone else makes all the decisions. You may find you can get away with virtual presidents, virtual prime ministers, virtual everything. Virtual, of course, means just a cyber creation. Almost like the movie series The Matrix. He appears to be president. He acts as the president. He performs the way we think he should be as president. But someone else is calling all the shots. He, that is the president, is simply the man reading the lines on the teleprompter. Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, we go back to them again. Protocol number 4 said, who and what is in a position to overthrow our invisible force? The plan of action of our force remains for the whole people an unknown mystery. Mystery. Isn't Obama, Barack Obama, President of the United States, still an unknown mystery? Who or what is this invisible force? We're told that Obama best represents the greatest of America. In fact, we should look back to the days of Abraham Lincoln, who in a time of crisis and death and war brought America back together again as a union. Newsweek again had this cover showing Obama's Lincoln and showing Obama channeling the 16th president. David Axelrod, the Jewish campaign manager, that's right, he had a Jewish campaign manager, said to really make headway among the populace, what we must do is figure out a good Lincoln quote. To make a man a popular president, just have him quote from Abraham Lincoln. We see this picture published on the internet. Is it Abraham Lincoln or is it Barack Obama? We see this Lincoln penny, but wait, is it Lincoln or is that Barack Obama's visage? My friends, this is an attempt at alchemy, an alchemical strategy to use not only Abraham Lincoln and make him appear to be the new Obama of the 21st century, but to hearken back even to the New Deal of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the 1930s socialist-leaning Great Depression, World War II chief executive. Yes, we are told Obama is the new, even improved 21st century edition of Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Let me assert my firm belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Notice this cover of Time magazine. A famous photo of Franklin Roosevelt has him pictured sitting in the front seat of a convertible with the famous cigarette in its holder. Now we have the New Deal of Barack Obama, Lincoln, Roosevelt. But is there more? The elite who chose and now manage and direct Obama. Yes, my friends, he is Rothschild's choice, and we will prove that to you. In their stagecraft, I believe they've gone much further than showing us the comparisons of Lincoln and of Roosevelt. This man shown here sitting in the Oval Office has a dream that we must believe in. He is not only be president of the United States, but president of the world. And he gives these speeches to large crowds. Notice his words.
For you to say that we are heirs to a struggle for freedom. We are a people of improbable hope, with an eye towards the future, with resolve in our heart. Let us remember this history and answer our destiny and remake the world once again. Thank you, Berlin.
Notice his words. We can change the world. Yes, we can. JFK gave a famous speech in Berlin.
In the world of freedom, the proudest boast is, Ich bin ein Berliner.
And so Barack Obama goes to Berlin. And what does he say?
And answer our destiny and remake the world once again.
Remake the world? Yes, reinvent the world. All the Jewish revolutionaries throughout history have said the very same thing. But there's more. He is more than just JFK, FDR, Abraham Lincoln. Why, this man is akin to King Tut. That's right, the Pharaoh of ancient Egypt. Consider this inauguration preview issue of Time and the way the head of Barack Obama is turned. And now look at this bust of King Tut, Tutankhamun, the ancient Egyptian pharaoh. Do you see the similarities? In fact, in 2009, Barack Obama visited Egypt, and here is one of the Egyptian men with a memento of his visit. They began to sell mementos comparing Obama. They said he is the new Tutankhamun of the world, not just Egypt. He's the pharaoh. In my own newsletter, Power of Prophecy, I asked the question, is he the second coming of Osiris, the Egyptian sun god? Is Obama the black pharaoh? Well, on the internet, he is even more than that. Here we have him shown as the Caesar, Julius Caesar the Great. But it's Barack Obama. This amazing picture shows Brian Williams, ABC News anchor. He did a special at the White House. And when he came to Barack Obama to visit him, he didn't simply extend his hand. He bowed his head as if Barack Obama was royalty. We're being taught to love Barack Obama. He is a big brother type. It was Aldous Huxley, one of the psychological promoters of the New World Order, who in 1962 at a speech at University of California at Berkeley says this ultimate revolution with which we are faced will present to us a series of techniques which will enable the controlling oligarchy, the Rothschild Jewish Zionist Illuminati elite. The controlling oligarchy will be able to get people to love their servitude. We will love being the peasants, the Gentiles, the Goyim, the cattle, who willingly serve our master. And if we do not, well, this gentleman had this sign, this placard, to let people know who did not obey, who in fact would insult Obama, that perhaps they should be beheaded. Now, Obama is seen by some to go even beyond King Tut, even beyond the Pharaohs or the Caesars or Lincoln or JFK. Why, he's compared to Spider-Man or to the all-intelligent Mr. Spock of Star Wars. He's a Superman. This, indeed, is Barack Obama standing in front of the Museum of Superman in the Midwest. He is the one. You'll remember the Matrix movies. Here he is, fighting the bad guys, Barack Obama. And finally, we have this image of him shattering, busting out of the Statue of Liberty, carrying the torch of freedom and of knowledge. Barack Obama bringing us the change we need as Americans, and yet it's for the whole world. And of course, by his side, the lovely lady, Michelle Obama, shown here on the cover of Essence magazine. Obama is our father. He is our patriarch. And this is what the protocols of the learned elders of Zion that were published at the end of the 19th century, at the beginning of the 20th century. But look what they said even then. They forecast the blueprint for world domination by the Jewish Zionist Illuminati. The protocols of the learned elders of Zion, protocol number 15, says our government will have the appearance of a patriarchal, paternal guardianship. on the part of our ruler. Our subjects will discern in his person a father caring for their every need. Is Obama our father? Is his aura so grandiose? It's beyond that. We keep going up. Why, he is approaching saintly status. He is a loving, holy man, full of tender affections for his human flock. Yes, he's our father. He's our patriarch. He is our loving father in heaven. Apparently, some believe so, or at least the internet images would indicate that he is a saint. He is, should I dare say it, he rises up. He rides the white horse. You see the white horse behind him in this picture. Obama is the one. He walks on water. He is worshiped and honored as the Messiah, as another Jesus. In fact, according to a poll taken by the Harris poll in March of 2009, it says that President Barack Obama has beaten out Jesus Christ as America's #1 hero. He's bigger than Jesus. And then we have this poster, all hail the God King. And this article asking the question, Obama, be thy name, take off of the Lord's Prayer. But there's some who say, yes, maybe he is being portrayed as a godlike figure, but is he the one that will lead us to the Last Supper? Will he lead us to tragedy, to disaster? Maybe that's the meaning from the internet of the artist of this particular mural. Notice Barack Obama, the Messiah at the Last Supper, but on the wall behind him, we have the Soviet hammer and sickle, and we have pictures of Stalin and of Lenin. Yes, my friends, there's some who say Obama might be the Antichrist, that he might be a devil. Well, perhaps the real God in heaven will let us know what Obama is. And maybe he's already given us a hint of this when we look at what happened at Barack Obama's inauguration. What happened? Well, here we have Barack Obama in this picture, merrily taking the oath of office from Chief Justice Roberts of the Supreme Court. His wife, Michelle, holds the Bible as he lays his left hand on it, raises his right hand to give the oath of office.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
That I will execute the office of President to the United States faithfully.
That I will execute
the office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States faithfully.
But hold on. It appears there was a mistake. That Chief Justice Roberts blundered, and so it was decided there would be the taking of the oath a second time. And so in a side room at the White House, we had this oath taken. That's right. Barack Obama, as far as I know from history, is the first president ever to have to say the oath a second time, the day after, so that they could get it right. But hold on. Do you notice a difference between the first time he took the oath, with the whole American nation and the world watching on television, and now we have this little private ceremony where he retook the oath? Do you notice that anything is missing from the ceremony? You're absolutely right. There is no Bible. There is no Bible. Does this give us a clue to who Obama really is and what he believes? What does Barack Obama himself really believe about God? Well, in the speech at Notre Dame in 2009, Obama told us of his conception of God. He said, quote, "It is beyond our capacity as human beings to know with certainty what God has planned for us or what he asks of us." Is this true? Is it true that we cannot know with certainty what God has planned for us or what he asked of us? Then why in the Old Testament does it say that the steps of a righteous person are ordered by God? Look at what the Christian scriptures say. Jesus Christ seemed to indicate that we would know what the master had to say to us. He said, no servant can serve two masters. Jesus Christ said, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. It appears that we can know the truth. And then finally, Christ himself said in the Gospel of John, it is recorded, his words, I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of mine. Those who are the sheep of Jesus Christ, the great shepherd, the good shepherd, they will follow only him, and they know what he requires of them. Reverend Jeremiah Wright was the pastor for Barack Obama for almost 2 decades in a church in Chicago, Illinois. Reverend Wright, it seems, was a big promoter of something called black liberation theology. And we're told that he would often quote the works of a Harvard University professor named James Cone. Now, if Barack Obama attended this church for almost 20 years, the church of Pastor Jeremiah Wright, what did this Cone teach that seemed to be so important to Pastor Wright, the pastor of Barack Obama? Well, Cone taught this. He said, the goal of black theology is the destruction of everything white so that blacks can be liberated from alien gods. Is Jesus an alien god? Does Obama agree that black theology should be pursued, and that is the destruction of everything white? The American Freedom Press, in an article back in December of 2008, talked about Harvard educator and also Robert Mugabe, the president of Zimbabwe and Africa, who were demanding the eradication of the whites, the killing of the whites. The Jewish Talmud says that all Gentiles should be killed. Kill the best of the Gentiles. Well, maybe it's not an accident then that Barack Obama has selected almost all of his cabinet as anti-life. In other words, pro-abortion. In fact, as a legislator in Illinois, Mr. Obama actually voted for partial birth abortion. Well, maybe the answer to who he believes is God or what is his conception of God can be found from one of the chief supporters of Barack Obama, a Jewish woman named Sarah Silverman, the comedian. She did commercials down in the state of Florida that helped Obama win that state during the election. She has done a HBO comedy video entitled, mockingly, blasphemously, Jesus is Magic. She makes fun of Jesus. She mocks him. She even pretends to have sex with Jesus. This is a sick Jewish comedian. Here, she dresses up like Jesus Christ with a halo and wears a red robe. How fitting, the color red, because the Bible talks about the red dragon in the last days, the serpent who is the devil. His color seems to be scarlet red, as is the whore of Babylon's. And here is Miss Silverman once again, but this time she wears a t-shirt. It's a red t-shirt, the red of Soviet communism, and she wears the Soviet communist red star. She's very proud of being a communist. What relationship does communism have with Rothschild and with Zionism? Well, Dr. Henry Makow, author of the outstanding book Illuminati, the Cult That Hijacked the World, on page 104 says this. He says communism and Zionism are Rothschild proxies, two pincers in the bankers' plan for world government dictatorship. And communism and Zionism is currently masquerading as globalization. Certainly Barack Obama has given every indication that he is in favor of globalization, of global governance. It all works together. Communism, Zionism, Rothschild, bankers' plans, world government, dictatorship, globalization, says Dr. Makow. Ernest Elmshurst, in his excellent book, The World Hoax, back in 1938, said that Marx, and Karl Marx, of course, the founder of communism, the writer of the book Das Kapital and the Communist Manifesto, that he had a Jewish revolutionary program, that's really what it was, that became a reality in the Soviet regime. And a Jewish state was then in the making, and that one of the Zionist dreams had come true. The five-pointed red star of Zionism was adopted as the insignia of the Jewish Soviets and was made the national emblem of the USSR. Now remember this red-colored star with its 5 points. You see, the Rothschilds were called the Five Arrows, and the five-pointed star was one of their emblems. But there's more to Barack Obama than just being a puppet of the Rothschilds and of Zionists, although we'll learn much about that. It is reputed that he is also a member of Prince Hall Freemasonry. Barack Obama, like all the other black leaders in America, is a Freemason. This is a poster that was published, and it was advertised on the internet, welcoming fellow Masons to come to the Masonic inaugural ball in honor of the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama. conducted by the Lodge there in Washington, D.C. Barack Obama and his Masonic inaugural ball. On their website, the Prince Hall Masons, that is the black Freemasons. You see, there's always been a separation of the whites and the blacks. And here on their own website, they campaign for Barack Obama. If we get a list, and I show you here a partial list of famous Prince Hall Freemasons, we find many black names on it. There is, of course, Sugar Ray Robinson, the famous boxing champion, but there's also Julian Bond, the national chairman of the NAACP, Thomas Bradley, mayor of Los Angeles. There's the black revolutionary during the 60s, Eldridge Cleaver, and it goes on and on. Reverend Jesse Jackson is a member of the Harmony Lodge in Chicago, Illinois, no less. There's Kwesi Mfumi of Baltimore, Maryland Lodge. There's Congressman Charles Rangel of New York of the Joppa Lodge, number 55. And Reverend Al Sharpton, New York City civil rights leader, also a Mason. And then there's this man. Yes, David Patterson, the current governor of New York. They say he's legally blind. Well, maybe in more ways than physically. He too, according to the internet, is a Freemason. He was raised as a Freemason in Boyer Lodge number 1, located in Harlem. Another Freemason is Hugo Chavez, president of Venezuela, a socialist. Here he is giving a Masonic handshake with his comrade pal, Barack Obama. Why do I use the term comrade? Well, because that's what Hugo Chavez calls him, Comrade Barack. This is an artist painting of Chicago's Masonic Temple. Look at what a huge building it is. Many of the buildings and the architecture of the city of Chicago, Illinois, where Obama hails from, is Masonic in origin, including this all black ebony building. And notice nearby the Egyptian Masonic obelisk. The all-seeing eye that's on our dollar bill, of course, is a Masonic symbol. And then if we really want to know who the God of Barack Obama is, maybe we should go to a Masonic publication. Maybe we could turn to the New Age magazine of September 1950, page 551, in this article written by a Freemason, C. William Smith, entitled God's Plan in America. Is it also Obama's plan in America? Well, here's what the plan is all about. Mr. Smith wrote, God's plan is dedicated to the unification of all races. Well, of course, the Jews do not agree to that because they refuse to be assimilated into the Gentile race. But Mr. Smith continues that God's plan, that is the Masonic God, is dedicated to the unification of all races, religions, and creeds, all religions and creeds. This plan is dedicated, he says, to the new order of things. It is to make all things new. Now we have the reason for Obama's change. A new nation, a non-sectarian religion. In other words, a religion that doesn't believe in just one God. A religion that has already been called the religion of the great light. The goal, he says, is to unfold the new age of the world, a novus ordo seclorum. Now, one of the things the Masons do is take an oath to protect their Masonic brothers. And this has been very convenient for Masonic politicians throughout the decades. From Ronayne's Handbook of Masonry, page 183, we have the oath, the statement of belief of Masons. It says, you must conceal all crimes of your brother Masons. And should you be summoned as a witness against a brother Mason, be always sure to shield him. It may be perjury to do this, says the Masonic Guide. It is true, but you're keeping your obligations. So what is Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Charles Rangels, the Rothschilds, yes, the Rothschilds, according to the book 10,000 Famous Freemasons, Meyer Amschel Rothschild, the first baron of the Rothschild clan, was a Mason. All Rothschilds are Masons. And what is required of them but to conceal all the crimes of their brother Masons, even if it means perjury. The Jewish Tribune, back in 1927 in New York City, gave us an idea of what Masonry is all about. Masonry, said the Jewish Tribune, is based on Judaism. Eliminate the teachings of Judaism from the Masonic ritual and what is left? Freemasonry, thoroughly Judaic. Greg Hallett, in his book, How to Take Over the World, page 92, says, the leaders of the Freemasons were the Illuminati, and the Illuminati were the Rothschilds. Manly P. Hall, 33rd degree, in his classic textbook, The Lost Keys of Freemasonry, page 78, says something very interesting about Freemasonry. He says, when the Mason learns that the key is the proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mystery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands. The Masons seek the seething energy of their master, Lucifer. Remember the words of Jesus, no man can serve two masters. Is Lucifer really the master of the lodge? Well, that's according to John Quincy Adams, one of the most brilliant presidents in American history, 6th president of the United States. In his book, Letters on Freemasonry, he exposed the Masonic sect. He said that it is a tool of Lucifer. And he said more. John Quincy Adams warned that Masonry ought forever to be abolished. It is wrong. It is a seed of evil, said the president, which can never produce any good. In my own book, Codex Magica, I noted that Robespierre, the butcher who cut off so many heads at the guillotine during the French Revolution, was a Freemason. Adam Weishaupt, Order of the Illuminati founder, was a Freemason. Napoleon, who brought hundreds of thousands to battlefields to be slain, was a Freemason. Stalin, who according to Solzhenitsyn, the Nobel Prize winner, was a Freemason, and he killed up to 66 million Soviet citizens. Mussolini, the Italian dictator, was a Freemason. Truman, who exploded 2 atomic bombs and perhaps unnecessarily killed tens of thousands of Japanese, was a Freemason, as was Roosevelt. Ariel Sharon, called the Butcher of Lebanon, was a Freemason. Bill Clinton, of Monica Lewinsky fame, was a Freemason. Fidel Castro, who tortured so many and put so many innocent people into jail cells in Cuba, a Freemason. I might add, Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel, yes, a Mason. Barack Obama, a Mason. And no doubt, the Antichrist himself will be a Freemason. Now, we see that Barack Obama is a Freemason. How did he become a member of a lodge? Who chose him? Is Freemasonry, in fact, a Jewish sect? Well, we have found out that is exactly the case. And again, we are faced with the mystery. We already know then, he's a Mason. He practices Jewish ritual, Jewish religion through Freemasonry. Yes, we're finding out a lot about Barack Obama. But we need to go backward in time to his roots, to his beginnings, to search the pages of histories for more about this man, if he is to lead America into a communist realm or commonwealth. We need to look at Obama's American dream, his case for bigger government. We know that as a senator, he introduced legislation called the Global Poverty Act. It's already been passed by the House of Representatives, that would redistribute the wealth of middle class and other Americans to those of foreign lands. But let's go back to the time of the campaign in 2008 when he was running for president. And I'd like to introduce you to some of the leaders in major American cities of Obama's presidential campaign. We go to Houston, Texas first. The Obama campaign was conducted from a giant warehouse building, and here's the director. There she is, sitting, working at the desk, calling people, reminding them to go out and vote for Barack Obama. You'll notice that she has a picture of Obama on her desk, a couple of them, in fact, and on her wall is hanging a flag of the United States, but more than that, a great poster and flag of Che Guevara, the Cuban revolutionary terrorist and murderer. That's right. This was found out during a visit by Fox Television News. Here's another campaign office of Barack Obama. Notice the person hard at work consulting on the campaign, and behind her on the wall, what is it? Yes, the Cuban communist flag and the image of Che Guevara, the Cuban revolutionary who died down in South America conducting what else? A revolution. And yet another campaign office and another poster of Che Guevara on a red background, wearing his communist beret with a red star on it. And what is next to him on the wall? Well, Barack Obama with his message of hope. What is that hope? for a regime led by a communist like Che Guevara? Obviously so. We look at some of the people that Barack Obama has appointed to high office. There's Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States. He says we must limit the rights of free speech on the internet. In a communist and socialist dictatorship, of course, many people will be on the government dole. And as the Wall Street Journal has said in a recent article, the numbers on welfare under Obama have seen a sharp increase. CNN headline news, Glenn Beck, who is now with Fox News Network, said of Obama, quote, "This guy really is a Marxist." Across the nation in the year 2009, many people had what they call tea parties, demonstrations against the taxing and the socialist system that is being fostered by Barack Obama and his communist lieutenants. This man carried this poster with, of course, the Soviet hammer and sickle image and the image of Obama and the old saying that is attributed, right or wrong, to Vladimir Lenin and the communists, from each according to his ability to each according to his need. Newsweek, which seems to have had a love affair with Barack Obama, on its cover simply said, "We are all socialists now." In his book, The Audacity of Hope, Thoughts on Reclaiming the American Dream, Barack Obama himself talked about a system which seems to be suspiciously socialist communist. But on the other hand, those who trust and believe in Obama say that is indeed our hope. Our hope? Communism? Could that be? Forward, on, charge ahead, says the Obama Brigade. We need change, read the posters. But some say, what kind of change? Revolution? The kind that Che Guevara and Fidel Castro offered? And then comes from the internet again, someone put out that same image. It keeps popping up everywhere of Obama. But this time, rather than dream or hope, it says, obey. In the French Revolution, the Jewish Illuminist leaders said we must seize the moment, carpe diem. And what did Obama say during the campaign and since? We must seize the moment. This is our moment, said the Obama posters. Well, it seems that Barack won't leave us alone until we have a communist government, a socialist system. Well, Michelle Obama herself seemed to indicate that when she cried out in a campaign speech, if he is elected, Barack will never allow you to go back to your lives as usual. No wonder Time magazine had this cover of Michelle Obama entitled The Meaning of Michelle. Is that the meaning of Michelle Obama? This is an interesting photo back in 1996 in the New Yorker magazine of Barack Obama looking very austere. His wife with her Afro-American liberation haircut sitting beside him. Pictures of Oriental religion on the wall behind. Look closely to Obama's right. On the table, do you see it? The totem, the idol of a hideous African horned devil god, a god of witchcraft. Is this the dark and sinister god of black liberation theology, worshipped behind closed doors by Barack and Michelle Obama? In fact, there have been many rumors and stories of witchcraft in the White House, African tribal religion, Santeria. Remember that Hugo Chavez, the socialist president of Venezuela, called Obama his comrade. He says that Obama is more left-wing than any president he has ever known. In the state of Washington, they have erected, that's right, some Freemasons got together evidently, and they erected a statue of Vladimir Lenin in America, in Washington state. Vladimir Lenin had a deputy named Leon Trotsky. He came from New York. His real name was Leon Bronstein, but he became one of the biggest, bloodiest butchers in the history of the world as he and Stalin and Lenin led the communist revolution in Russia beginning in 1917. But he also said, Trotsky did in one of his books, that the communists would someday come to America, but not exactly the same way. He said, quote, we Bolsheviks, that's the communists, will bring the revolution to Europe as well as to America. It will come, wrote Trotsky, systematically, step by step. Is this also Obama's plan? In his book, The Audacity of Hope, Obama seemed to be at odds with the Constitution of the United States and with its founders, but he proclaimed that the founders of America's Constitution themselves disagreed about the meaning of the basic rights, such basic rights as freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. Barack Obama claims that our founding fathers were not averse to ignoring these rights altogether. Is that true? Well, of course not. But Obama, in his book, The Audacity of Hope, says, it is unrealistic to believe that a judge, 200 years later, can somehow discern the original intent of the founders or ratifiers of the Constitution. He is saying, dear friends, that even our founding fathers often ignored the Constitution and its Bill of Rights. Barack Obama is claiming that no judge now, 200 years later, can really know the original intent. Now, friends, our founders gave us nationalism. They gave us the United States of America, and we have shed a lot of blood to keep it that way. But Lenin, in his book on the Jewish question, page 17, says that Marxism is incompatible with nationalism. In other words, American sovereignty must go. Is it a surprise then that Zbigniew Brzezinski, former advisor to President Jimmy Carter and now a behind-the-scenes advisor to President Barack Obama, also agreed with Lenin? He states, quote, nationalism is no longer a viable concept. This man is advisor to Barack Obama. Please read for yourself what he says in his book, Between Two Ages. Brzezinski states that Marxism represents a further vital and creative stage in the maturing of man's universal vision. He says Marxism is a victory of reason over belief in God. It is no wonder then that one Christian writer, Bob Treves, in his excellent publication Cherith Chronicles, warns about Barack Obama and his presidency. Obama, said Mr. Treves, is truly a dark, shadowy character from the Marxist mafia underworld. And he notes that secret societies are protecting and guiding this man to set in place totalitarian rule in America, telling Obama what to say and telling him what to do. But again, let's go to the words of Obama himself. Tell me, dear friends, do these sound like words of our founding fathers or the greatest of American presidents, or do they sound like they're words out of the mouth of a Marxist socialist? During the presidential campaign of 2008, Barack Obama had a rally in the state of Oregon. It's very interesting that he had an opening band that played music for him. The name of the band was the Decembrists. Here's a picture of them. They're dressed in Soviet garb, communist garb. Well, it seems that the Decembrist band is named after an 1825 revolt by communists over the Imperial Russian succession. It was called the Decembrist Revolt. It was an attempted early communist revolution. Now, this same band opens many of its shows by playing the Soviet Union's national anthem. And of course, they're waving the red flag of Soviet communism. Yes, Barack Hussein Obama, some say, could be the triumph of Marxism or communism. We continue to have indications of this. Here's a news item which says that in this book, The Secret World of American Communism, it's revealed that Senator Obama of Illinois shared an office with Communist Party leader Mike Kronsky. In Investor's Business Daily, we're told that Obama has an entire axis of Marxist friends. And there's more. This article, Socialism, Marxism, Communism, and Obama, talking about his ties to various communists, including Mr. Bill Ayers, who was indicted as a communist terrorist back in the 70s. In fact, the top U.S. communist, the head of the U.S. Communist Party, during the 2008 election, encouraged his people in a column in the Daily Worker newspaper of the communist. He said, elect Obama and change the world. Socialism, communism, Zionism, Bolshevism. Ernest Elmshurst, in The World Hoax, 1938, said that Jewish domination is the goal of communism. He said socialism, communism, and Bolshevism in reality are only links in the plan of world-embracing Judaism, with its final purpose of forcing the entire world under Jewish domination. Barack Obama forcing the world to accept Jewish domination? Why, it's almost as if he would be the first Jewish president. More on that in a moment. In the American Bulletin back in 1935, Rabbi Wise was the best-known rabbi in America, a great friend of President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He was also a friend and a fan of Marxism and communism and Joseph Stalin. Some call it Marxism, said Rabbi Wise. I call it Judaism. Alfred Nozick, a Jew, but an exposer of the Jewish plot, in his book, The Secret Forces Behind Revolution, stated, quote, socialism and the Mosaic Code are not at all in opposition. All Jewish groups have a vital interest in the victory of socialism. Eustace Mullins, a fighter against Zionism and communism, in his classic book, Mullins' New History of the Jews, said it like it is. He wrote, communism is the modern form of the Jewish collective state. Is that what America is to become? A Jewish collective state? The Jewish Chronicle, an authoritative Jewish publication, as far back as 1919, said this, quote, the ideals of Bolshevism, that is the most extreme form of communism that took over Russia, are consonant with the finest ideals of Judaism. Will America be taken over? Is it being taken over step by step, as Trotsky warned and advocated? This book, written by Jan Kozak, of how communism took over so much of Eastern Europe, is very instructive. It is entitled, And Not a Shot is Fired. Again, we turn to the Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, Protocol number 10. They choose for political office the Zionist Illuminati, the Rothschilds, men with dark stains in their past. That's who they want. In order that our scheme may produce this result, we shall arrange elections in favor of such presidents as have in their past some dark, undiscovered stain, some Panama or other. Then they will be trustworthy agents for the accomplishment of our plans out of fear of revelations. What dark stain exists in Obama's past? Can we find such a dark stain? Is he being required by fear of revelation to go along with this Jewish Rothschild plot for the takeover of America and the world? Let us study the history of Barack Obama from infancy and see what we can find. Here, we're told is a picture of his father, who comes from the nation in Africa of Kenya, who met his mother, Stanley Ann Dunham, and produced Barack Obama. She was evidently his third wife. He had two back in Africa. And after young Barack Hussein Obama was only 2 years old, he was abandoned by this father from Kenya. Now, a time or two the father did visit. Here from San Francisco at the airport, we see the father holding his arm around young Barack Obama. It's amazing, even though his father abandoned him and his mother, Ann Durham, at the age of 2, nevertheless, Barack Obama was led to write an entire book. Here is a cover of that book, Dreams from My Father. What dreams might he have attained from a father at the age of 2? Well, here he is at about the age of 2 with his mother. Was he then dreaming about what his father believed? I doubt that. He had another father, of course, from Indonesia. Here is that father, Mr. Sotero. And here is young Barack with his mother and his sister living in the nation of Indonesia. By the way, camera, go up very close and look at that strange medallion around the neck of youthful Barack Obama. Here's Obama a little bit older with his auntie from Kenya. Now here's Obama's a young man again with his grandfather and his mother and his sister. Barack Obama said of his mother, Ann Durham, her real name, by the way, was Stanley Ann Durham, because her father, Barack's grandfather, was named Stanley. Then he called his daughter, too, Stanley, because he wanted a boy, but her friends called her Ann. Obama said of his mother that she was the dominant figure in his formative years. And the values that she taught him, said Obama, continue to be my touchstone when it comes to how I go about the world of politics. His mother was the dominant figure. Here is his mother as a young girl with her parents, the grandparents of Barack Obama, a very handsome pair. Ann Dunham was raised on a little island in the waters outside of Seattle, Washington. It seems that she went to a special school, a private school. The school was run by a headmaster that taught the kids communism and socialism. Her friends said that Ann Dunham despised Christianity, and she was quick to debate anyone who believed in Jesus Christ. And that's the way she was raised, by her atheist communist parents. And Obama says that she was the most formative influence in his political thinking. But we can go further. His grandparents obviously helped to form his thinking. Who were these grandparents? What were they all about? Here he is as a young man sitting on a park bench with his grandfather and his grandmother, the Dunhams. Now, look at this picture very carefully on this park bench, because I want to tell you about another man who knew this same couple and who met them at that same park in Honolulu, Hawaii, years earlier. It was a man named Frank Marshall Davis. Here's his picture. Frank Marshall Davis was a communist, a member of the Communist Party USA, an influential communist in Atlanta, Georgia. He moved to Chicago, Illinois, where he became even more famous, or should we say infamous, as a member of the Communist Party USA. Frank Marshall Davis, he was a writer, a novelist, a nonfiction writer, and well-placed in the Chicago Communist Jewish Black Network. Frank Marshall Davis. What is his connection with Obama? Well, Barack Obama, in his book, The Audacity of Hope, says that other than his mother, this Frank Marshall Davis taught him everything practically he needed to know. He taught me what I should think. He taught me my political ideas. Frank Marshall Davis was the mentor of young Barack Obama from the time he was a little boy all the way through his high school years, a member of the Communist Party USA. But Frank Marshall was much more than that. Some say he was Barack Obama's real father. Some have connected the dots. Yes, is his name really Barack Obama, or is it Barack Davis? What do we know about Frank Marshall Davis? One of the things we know is that he used a pseudonym in writing. And one of the books he wrote, this is a picture of the cover. I'm not going to show it all to you because, well, I don't want you to see it all. It's too sordid. It was published by Greenleaf Press, by the way, a very liberal, pinko, pro-homosexual press. It was entitled Sex Rebel Black, written by Frank Marshall Davis, a member of the Communist Party USA, who was sent from Chicago to Honolulu, Hawaii, to open up a Communist Party cell, and disguising himself as Bob Greene, Greene, who really was a white Jewish columnist for the Chicago Tribune that is owned by a Jewish Zionist billionaire named Samuel Zell. What a web we weave when once we practice to deceive. What does this book say? Sex Rebel Black by Frank Marshall Davis, who in his own autobiography, Barack Obama says was his chief mentor, his teacher of political ideas. You'll find that he says that he was so sexual that he loved to have swinging parties with white women, black men, white men. He was a bisexual, a homosexual. He says he only wished he was born with 2 sets of genitals. He was so full of sexual lust. But he also says that he met a certain white couple who were visiting Honolulu at the time. They had come over from Seattle, Washington. He met them while he was trolling the park for sexual partners. And so enthused they were with meeting Mr. Davis that they had decided to move to Honolulu, Hawaii.
This is the guy who was picked by Barack Obama's white grandfather, Stanley Dunham, to be Barack Obama's mentor. Because, as we all know, Obama's father had abandoned the family. So Frank Marshall Davis filled that void. This is a key guy in his life who pumped Barack Obama's head full of anti-American thoughts and ideas. He was a propagandist for the Communist Party who wrote for the Communist Party-controlled newspaper in Hawaii, the Honolulu Record. And in terms of being a poet, he wrote poems in honor of the Soviet Red Army and mocking Christian missionaries. That's the kind of, quote, poet this guy was. And so this guy is critical to understanding how Obama turned out later in life, why he would go to Wright's church, why he would associate with terrorists and communists and socialists in Chicago. This is the key to understanding Barack Obama.
What we do know is that Barack Obama, although he was half black and half white, was educated in virtually an all-white school. Here he is as a member of the all-white basketball team. He left that high school and went to Occidental College, another prestigious university, mostly white, in California. But after that, he went off to another, even more prestigious school, Columbia University in New York, and then after that to Harvard University, one of the most prestigious in the world, where he became president, and you see him carrying the scepter of the Harvard Law Review. From Harvard, he went to Chicago, the previous home of his mentor, Frank Marshall Davis, who meant so much to the education of Barack Obama. And this brings us to this quote by Dr. Henry Macko in his book, Illuminati, the Cult That Hijacked the World. Take a moment to digest what Dr. Macko is saying. He says the Illuminati take a child and manipulate things behind the scenes for him. They open up all the right doors for this person. They get them the grants they need, the money, the schooling, everything that's needed for their career. And of course, they use mind control on the young person. The end product, says Dr. Macko, is that you end up with somebody who is a politician highly qualified for what they are doing. Barack Obama, Dr. Henry Macko writes, fits this description. The Manchurian candidate, or should I say, the Rothschild Frank Marshall Davis candidate. Remember, the same Dr. Henry Macko informed us that communism and Zionism are Rothschild proxies, two pincers in the bankers' plan for world government dictatorship masquerading as globalization. This wasn't the first young man the communists chose, and that the Rothschilds affirmed as their choice for high political office. Consider the Communist Party USA. One of the presidents and leaders of the Communist Party, almost from its inception, was a man named Gus Hall. Here's Gus Hall, encouraging people, by the way, to vote communist, shaking the hand of a black man. The Communist Party USA also always claimed to be the benefactor and champion of black civil rights. Gus Hall's real name was Jewish, of course. Like many Jews, he disguised himself in his name. His real name was Arvo Gustav Hallberg. So he just called himself Gus Hall so no one would really know. Gus Hall, who was elected the Communist Party USA General Secretary, was so beloved by Stalin and the communists that he was actually awarded the Order of Lenin. It came out in 1992, according to declassified documents, that Mr. Hall had taken over $2 million under the table from the Kremlin. Mr. Hall, like all the communists, claimed that they were great supporters and embracers of the black civil rights movement. For example, Martin Luther King received covert communist support, had many communist connections. Was that really his dream? President Lyndon B. Johnson was told by the FBI director, J. Edgar Hoover, that in fact Martin Luther King was a communist. Then we have Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton is active today, preaching and pontificating. We don't know about his communist connections, but we know of the billionaire Jews that support Al Sharpton. And of course, he is a pal of Barack Obama. And then there's Jesse Jackson. Oh, yes, the premier civil rights leader. He cried when Obama was sworn into office. Jesse Jackson was a lieutenant of Martin Luther King. And of course, the Jewish billionaires have long supported he and his Operation Rainbow Push in Chicago. It seems that the Jews then are backers of the blacks. Well, the blacks are Gentiles. They are non-Jews. What do the Jews really think about the blacks? Maybe we should go to a true expert, a man like Israel Shahak, author of Jewish History, Jewish Religion. Israel Shahak, one of the greatest professors and educators in the nation of Israel. He wrote in his book on page 103 that according to the Halakha, the Jewish law, a Gentile slave bought by a Jew should be converted to Judaism, but he does not thereby become a proper Jew. And so it was that Harold Rosenthal, legislative aide to U.S. Senator Jacob Javits, the Democratic senator from New York back in the 1970s, in an interview was asked about Sammy Davis Jr., the black entertainer's conversion to Judaism. He said Sammy Davis Jr. conversion to Judaism doesn't mean anything. We know that a black cannot become a Jew and that Sammy Davis is still black. It may have been to his advantage to become converted. In reality, he still remains a nigger. Is that what they think? Of their stooge, of their puppet, of their water boy, Barack Obama, 44th President of the United States? In the Megiddo Hebrew English Dictionary, published in Israel Today, we have a definition of a Gentile boy or young man. They have the Hebrew word shagetz. And what is a shagetz? Here's the definition. Shagetz, a Gentile boy or young man, unclean animal, loathsome creature, abomination, a wretch. Is that Obama? A wretch? Abominable? An unclean animal? According to the Jews. But wait, let's go one step further. The greatest Jewish Talmudic holy book scholar of all time is the Rabbi Maimonides. What did he have to say about the black people? In his book, Guide to the Perplexed, Book 3, Chapter 51, the rabbi said this. He said, quote, the nature of the Turks, that is the Mongol race, and the blacks is like the nature of mute animals, and they are not on the level of human beings. And their level, said the rabbi, is below that of a man and above that of a monkey. How nice. Barack Obama then, as is Jesse Jackson, as is Sammy Davis, or was Sammy Davis Jr., as is the Reverend Al Sharpton, on a level less than a man, but thankfully above that of a monkey. They remain niggers, according to the Jews. In 1935, Myron Fagan, in his audio tape expose, The United Nations is Spawn of the Illuminati, the Communist Party's Workers' Library publishers issued a pamphlet entitled The Negroes in a Soviet America. It urged the Negroes to rise up and form a Soviet state in the South and apply for admission into the Soviet Union. That's what they wanted to use the blacks for. Revolution, to bring about a communist America. They wanted them as puppets. No wonder Ernest Elmshurst, in his book The World Hoax, said that the Jews realized the strategical advisability of parading ambitious Gentiles as head of their organizations. R. Wilton, a Russian correspondent for the London Times, as far back as 1920, said this. He says the Jewish domination is supported by certain Gentile Russians, but they are mere screens and dummies behind which the 1,001 Jews of Soviet officialdom continued their work of destruction. They place in positions of power Gentiles, black or white, but behind the scene there are 1,001 Jews committing the works of destruction. Barack Obama, half black, half white, but according to the Jews, all nigger. But this is their words, not mine. I think it's disgusting from a Christian standpoint, but it's interesting. Even as degrading as their holy book is, even as degrading as the statements of the rabbis have been, according to many Jewish sources, they are now bragging, they are boasting that their man, their stooge, has become president of the United States. Now here's evidence. In Haaretz.com, the official, practically daily newspaper of Israel. This was also published in the Jewish World. Some Chicago Jews say Obama is actually the first Jewish president. This was written by a Jewish reporter, Natasha Motskovaya. She writes, quite a few of Barack Obama's friends from the past have popped up recently. In the Chicago Jewish community, she says, many people really are longtime friends of the president-elect. And some of the older people in the Jewish community say that they raised him, while others have jokingly called Obama the first Jewish president. They raised contributions for him, that is money. They provided him with contacts. They enjoyed hosting him and believed in his glorious future in politics. And then she gives a list of well-known Jewish movers and shakers in Chicago and how they are behind the meteoric rise of Barack Obama. Isn't it interesting that they like to pretend and tell us that Barack Obama might be a secret, covert Islamic spy? But in fact, it's the Jews. It's the billionaire Jews, the Zionists, the Rothschild people who have given us Barack Obama as president. Did you know, dear friends, that Barack Obama's $1 million mansion, that's right, he lived in the $1 million mansion, although he never had a job except as a supposedly lowly paid community organizer, but he lived in $1 million mansion in a Jewish neighborhood, a luxurious neighborhood, right across the street from a Jewish synagogue. Isn't that strange? Well, not really, if you know the truth about his origins. Here, published by the Canada-Israel Committee, is this article, Barack Obama, the first Jewish president. And then here, another one from Jewc.com. They asked the question, Obama, America's first Jewish president, but there's more. The Sun, a Jewish-owned newspaper. Obama, America's first Jewish president. The Jewish reporter Josh Gerstein writes this article. He says, Bill Clinton was America's first black president, or so we thought. Now, shocking word that Barack Obama may be in line to be America's first Jewish president. And he notes that Barack Obama himself says, I've got it in the gut. Jewish soul, sympathy for Israel. Barack Obama? Well, according to the Chicago Tribune, Tom Hunley wrote the article, says Barack Obama is not only likely to become the first Jewish president, but that a Chicago Jewish circle nurtured him all the way to the top. They found him as a young man out of Harvard and made him what he is today. They married him up with Rahm Emanuel, who became White House Chief of Staff. They gave him as his campaign manager for president, an old, well-known Jewish campaign manager and political shaker and mover, David Axelrod, his chief of staff, his campaign manager. And then the money comes pouring in. The Pritzker, a billionaire Jewish family, money, money, money. The Saltzman family, Jewish money, 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 money. Abner Mikva, the Jewish attorney and former White House counsel of President Clinton, money, money, money. George Soros, the banker and friend of the Rothschilds, agent of the Rothschilds. Money, money, money for Obama. Is Obama truly the first Jewish president? And then another one, Barack Obama, first Jewish president. Barack Obama, America's first Jewish president. And then from the Jerusalem Post, this article, Obama mentor says Barack has a Yiddish neshama. That's a Yiddish or Jewish soul. And his mentor said that. Who is his mentor? Here's a picture of him with an Obama poster, political poster, with a Jewish six-pointed Star of David. It's Mr. Abner Mikva, one of the most powerful politicians in Chicago. Chicago politics, black, dark, gangsterism.
But there are holes in that narrative, and we haven't heard the whole in the entire, everything we ought to know about the Ayers-Obama relationship, partly because the media, the Obama-centric media, has decided it's not an important issue. It's not going after it. What we do know is that they served on several boards together, and we do know that Ayers, apart from the question of his activities in the 60s, he's a very, you say unsavory, I say he's very dangerous in terms of what he's proposing about our education system. And he's not some bomb thrower out there by himself. He's very influential in education circles. Right. He's a vice president of the American Education Research Association, which is a leading organization of education professors in the country.
Then there's the Chicago Tribune newspaper, owned by Samuel Zell, Jewish billionaire Zionist. Did you know that Barack Obama was the first Democrat the Chicago Tribune had endorsed in over 100 years? Here we have a Jewish website, and what is the headline? Jews give all to celebrating Obama. Chosen by Rothschild, chosen and mentored by Frank Marshall on behalf of the Jews who were communists. Chosen by this close-knit group of rich and influential Zionist Jews in Chicago with the blessing of the Rothschilds in Great Britain, France, throughout Europe and the world. Their financial agent, the Jew George Soros, who has given us such liberal publications online as MoveOn.org, The Daily Kos, and more. Barack Obama. Abner Mikva said it's really not Barack, it's Baruch. Baruch is his real name, which means a blessing in Yiddish. Who is the real master, then, of Barack Obama? Is it not Lord Jacob Rothschild, the fourth Baron? And they have chosen him to fix the world. Why, they even show him on the cover of Newsweek, How to Fix the World. Remember, no man who is a Gentile, a goy, can be entrusted with this momentous task of transforming America, because General Colin Powell, the black former Secretary of State, a Republican who says he endorsed and voted for Barack Obama, called him a transformational president. He is to transform America into what? Yes, a Rothschild communist state, but a state owned by the extreme capitalist communists. Oh, you didn't think that communists could be capitalists? Oh, yes, they are. They remain capitalist. We are forced to be the communist peasants. They own privately all the capital, all the banks, all the corporations, or they seek ownership of that. That's why they've taken over General Motors, AIG, our banking system. They run it. But wait, can Obama really be trusted? Can a water boy of the Illuminati be trusted? Of course not. No Gentile can be trusted. He must have a handler. And so they have Rahm Emanuel. And so they have others in his cabinet. Let's take a look at this cabinet. First, we begin with Timothy Geithner. He's the man of the money. He's the Secretary of the Treasury. He's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission, all Jewish-run Zionist secret societies and globalist organizations. He was president of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York State, of course. He's director of the International Monetary Fund. He was formerly of the Rothschilds' premier Wall Street financial house, Goldman Sachs. And he was on the staff of Kissinger and Associates. On Portfolio magazine, run by the Jews, by the way, owned by them, here's Geithner. Lead us, please, it says. Geithner worked for Henry Paulson, who was called King Henry by Newsweek. He was the Secretary of Treasury under George W. Bush when the whole economic system of the world collapsed. And now Geithner is running things for Goldman Sachs, for Rothschild, for the Federal Reserve Bank. And then there's Ben Bernanke, shown here with Henry Paulson. Ben Bernanke, is he a Jew? You better believe it. Is Geithner a Jew? That's right. Is Paulson a Jew? You know it. They're all Jews. And what is their dirty little secret? It is that the entire global financial system has been placed at risk by them. It is that the wealth of the United States and the world has been plundered by the Jews. Now there has to be scapegoats. Here's a scapegoat, Bernie Madoff. He's a Jew. Did you know that Bernie Madoff sent at least $20 billion of his missing $65 billion to an Israeli bank in Tel Aviv that's owned by one of the most powerful and rich Jews in the world, Edgar Bronfman of Seagram Distillery fame? Notice this magazine. They have Madoff, this picture. Look at the background. It's made to appear as if he's nothing but a beetle. He's a bug. Look at it. His head seems to be glued onto a body of a bug. We're made to believe that he stole all $65 billion by himself, and it's just poof, missing. But what about the Israeli banks he sent it to? Is that where the money is? Should we understand that Bernie Madoff not only was head of NASDAQ at one time, one of the largest stock market exchanges in the world, but hold it, he was also the head of the American Jewish Congress. The American Jewish Congress, that's a coalition of all the Jewish organizations in America. Edgar Bronfman, the banker from Canada, was head of the World Jewish Congress, and Madoff was his lieutenant at the American Jewish Congress. What happened to all the money when America's financial system collapsed? Why are we now suffering so? Why are there new hard times? Even Time magazine shows a suit line. We're back early to the 1930s, they say. Every day the jobless rate goes up. What happened to the wealth of America? Was it just destroyed? Oh, no. Chuck Bates, Executive Vice President of the International Radio Network, USA Radio News, and Monetary and Economic Views, said something very interesting. Get this, friends. He said, wealth is never destroyed. It is merely transferred. And to whom was it transferred? You know the answer. The Rothschild bankers. Meanwhile, Obama says we must sacrifice. If the United States is to regain its vigor, we must sacrifice, he said in the State of the Union address. And behind him, smiling, is the Zionist Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States. And behind him, smiling, is Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House. And behind all of them is Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs. While the rest of America, even many banks, were suffering huge losses, we get this from the London newspapers. Goldman is to make record bonus payouts to its executives. $10 billion of bonuses. Wait. That's not bonuses for its executives. That came out of the U.S. taxpayers' TARP fund. That's how much Tim Geithner, Secretary of the Treasury, King Henry Paulson, Ben Bernanke and Barack Obama gave Goldman Sachs of our taxpayer dollars $10 billion. Bad times for the American economy. Millions of Americans laid off work. But according to Business Week, July 6, 2009, look what it says. Bad times are good times for Goldman Sachs, the Rothschild-connected firm. Here you see in Business Week a picture of the CEO, the head of Goldman Sachs. Is he a Gentile? Are you kidding me? His name? Lloyd Blankfein. Lloyd Blankfein, another Jew. Aren't they all? And then we have this from the internet. Barack Obama. He's just another captured pawn of Goldman Sachs Wall Street. Can that be? Don't we have agencies that protect us? Well, there's the FDIC. Very strangely, look at this logo. The number 33 from 1933. 33 is the highest level of Freemasonry. And there's the double-headed eagle, the two heads of Freemasonry. There's the Masonic square and key. Is the FDIC secretly a Masonic organization? It's meant to protect us and to protect us from banking fraud. Here is Sheila Bair. She's the chairman of the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, sitting at her desk. Is she Jewish? You better believe it. But wait, if the FDIC can't protect us and the banks, if the President of the United States is a Zionist puppet, we've got Congress, don't we? How about the chairman of the House Banking Committee? Will he protect us? Think again. Here he is, Barney Frank. He's a Jew. He's a homosexual. In fact, some years ago, it was discovered that he and his homosexual lover were running a homosexual brothel from his residence. He's the one who is to police the Jewish-owned banking system of the United States. No wonder Gerald Celente on Fox Business Television in June of 2009 said this. When asked about Wall Street in Washington, D.C., and could Washington, D.C. clean up a corrupt Wall Street, he said this, laughingly almost, Wall Street is Washington, D.C., and Washington, D.C. is Wall Street. We go to the secret societies and we see all of them are Jewish run, and that Obama has brought in his administration all the top dogs from the Council on Foreign Relations, from the Trilateral Commission, from the Bilderbergers. Henry Kissinger is advising him. In this article, we read CFR, that's the Council on Foreign Relations, unveils their global governance agenda. The CFR. Is Obama connected? Oh, yes, he was nominated for membership while he was a senator in the Council on Foreign Relations. And here he is speaking at a meeting of the Council on Foreign Relations. Here's Henry Kissinger, who's one of the top dogs of the CFR. And who is he with at a CFR meeting? You got it, the former chairman of AIG, an insurance corporation that gave billions to Goldman Sachs and received $200 billion from the U.S. Treasury. Here's David Rockefeller, former chairman of the Chase Manhattan Bank, banker, one of the directors of the Council on Foreign Relations. Here he is having a toast, a little drink, with a man named Richard Haass, who happens to be the president, or did happen to be the president of the Council on Foreign Relations. Richard Haass. Is he a Jew? Yes, he is. And what is he doing today? Well, he has been given a new position in government. He is an ambassador at large appointed by President Barack Obama. Barack Obama chose as an ambassador at large the president of the Council on Foreign Relations. Well, let's talk about something else, like spiritual things. Barack Obama evidently has a spiritual advisor. Here he is, his name, Pastor Rick Warren, from a church in California. Rick Warren. Surely he's not connected with any of these nefarious, notorious groups. Oh, but he is. Rick Warren is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. And then there's Larry Summers, Jewish, one of the top economic advisors to Barack Obama, a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. They're called the Brilliant Brain Trust. Jacob Weisberg, a Jewish writer for Newsweek in November, wrote of the superior mind of Larry Summers. Notice he's standing in the very same position, very same cold, stern, sober look on his face as did Henry Kissinger. It seems everywhere you turn, CFR members are in the Obama administration. Is that change? The American Free Press.net asked the question, change? They noted that the Obama inner circle is filled with Bilderbergers. They meet in places like Greece, Long Island, New York, Italy, hidden places. And guess who attends their meetings? You're right, people like Timothy Geithner, Henry Kissinger, Richard Haas, David Rockefeller. George Soros often attends as well, meetings of the Bilderbergers. He was one of the biggest funders of Barack Obama. And then we go to Lord Jacob Rothschild himself, the head of the Rothschild clan of Great Britain. You'll recall that during the political campaign, one of the top economic advisors for Barack Obama was a man named Warren Buffett. Here he is shown in this picture from the Daily Scotsman newspaper. He stands at the left. In the middle, you'll recognize the Terminator governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and on the right is Lord Jacob Rothschild. This picture was taken on the lawn of Waddesdon Manor, the palatial mansion, the fabulous mansion that belongs to Lord Jacob Rothschild, the fourth Baron of the Rothschild clan. Even Warren Buffett, the richest man of America, investor, by the way, in the preferred stock of Goldman Sachs, owner of several other American banks, financial advisor to candidate Barack Obama, evidently in the pocket of Lord Jacob Rothschild. Now you know who chose Arnold Schwarzenegger to be governor of California. In fact, this picture was taken just 4 months before the election of Arnold Schwarzenegger as governor of the Golden State of California. But if that wasn't enough, in his own family, Obama has somebody to watch over him. Here is a man you may not recognize, but it happens to be a Jewish rabbi. Oh, yes, he's black. And oh, yes, you can be a black man, but you'll never be a Jew. But nevertheless, he proclaims himself a rabbi. It is a Jewish rabbi. It is a black man. It is the cousin of Michelle Obama. He's a Jewish rabbi. The fix is in. Do you want to be a real Jew, though? You have to be somebody like Rahm Emanuel. In the B'nai B'rith magazine of New York, March 1933, it talked about the Jewish regime of the Soviet Union, of Lenin, of Trotsky. It says, under the new regime, that's the Bolshevik communist regime, it is at last possible to be a real Jew. Oh yes, a real Jew. One who murders Gentiles, who sets up gulag concentration camps. Well, Rahm Emanuel, the White House chief of staff, is indeed a real Jew, and he's an Israeli citizen to boot, who it is said keeps his Israeli passport and ID card in his desk drawer, always ready for use. He served in uniform in the Israeli army during the Gulf War. Not in the American army, but in the Israeli army. His father was a terrorist and murderer with Israel's infamous Irgun gang, a gang of cutthroats which actually slashed the throats of Palestinian children, women, and men alike. Gentiles, the best of them, are only worthy of death, says the Jewish Talmud. Yes, the Fredericksburg, Virginia Freelance Star newspaper says Emanuel is Obama's chief of staff. But Ynet News, the Yiddish website, also trumpeted the good news. Obama's Israel advisor. Will he be the next White House chief of staff? Well, Haaretz.com, the daily news source of all of Israel, answered that. Obama's first pick, his very first pick for his cabinet in his office, Israeli Rahm Emanuel as chief of staff. Notice that. Not an American, but an Israeli was made chief of staff. Even Haaretz, the daily website and newspaper of the nation of Israel themselves, said that Obama's first pick is an Israeli, Rahm Emanuel. Then writer Christopher Bolin commented on it in an article entitled, "The Israeli Who Will Run the Obama White House." The Jewish Press newspaper, the largest independent Jewish weekly in the world, had this article on it. It was headlined, "Obama's pick for chief of staff, committed Jew, political attack dog, Rahm Emanuel." This was a strange item out of the Idaho Observer, commenting on Rahm Emanuel. It seems that shortly after the inauguration, Obama was meeting with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, when Obama's chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, began cracking his knuckles. The president reportedly requested that Emanuel cease cracking his knuckles. At that point, Emanuel held up an offending knuckle up to Obama's left ear and, like an annoying little brother, snapped off a few special cracks. Obama's response was to inform Emanuel that his actions showed disrespect for the office of president. "You can see how he listens and reacts to Rahm," said Ron Klain, another Jew, the chief of staff to Vice President Joseph Biden Jr. "You can see that his opinion is being shaped." The president's opinion is being shaped. And who said this? Why, the chief of staff to Vice President Joseph Biden. And who is he? A Jew! The White House chief of staff to President Obama is a Jew. The Vice President's chief of staff is a Jew. The Secretary of Treasury is a Jew. The head of the Federal Reserve Board is a Jew. Jew. Friends, only 2.5% of America's citizens are Jews. 2.5% of all Americans are Jews. But they run the Obama White House. And they themselves have identified in their own publications Barack Obama as America's first Jewish president. By the way, here's Rahm Emanuel showing what an idiot and evil man he is. On the day of inauguration, he thumbed his nose at other congressmen, as if to say, ha, 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 we're in charge now. A scary man. He once took a butcher knife and pictures of Bill Clinton's enemies. You see, the same Rahm Emanuel also was an advisor in the White House of Bill Clinton, and it is said by insiders that Bill Clinton was afraid of him, and he told Bill Clinton what to do. He's the man who planted Monica Lewinsky there so that the Jews could blackmail Bill Clinton. And then when Congress voted to impeach Bill Clinton, insiders say that Rahm Emanuel took a butcher knife and pictures of the leading Republican opponents. And they held a staff meeting of the cabinet with President Clinton. And Rahm Emanuel took the butcher knife and he took each picture of the Republican enemies and he stabbed them. He said, this man, dead man. This one, dead man. This one, dead man. He once got angry with an opponent, a political opponent, and he took a dead fish and sent it to the man, to his enemy, by mail. And what does that mean in the Jewish mafia, or even the Sicilian mafia, to receive a dead fish in the mail? I think you know. It was Rahm Emanuel who stated it, and it was quoted in the Wall Street Journal. You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that is an opportunity to do things that you didn't think you could do before. Don't let a crisis go to waste. Which reminds us of what the Illuminati revolutionaries in France said, carpe diem, seize the moment. It reminds you of what Barack Obama said, this is the moment. Rahm Emanuel, the man who is infamous for using the F word, and yet people are afraid of him. Dick Morris, who was the chief political advisor to Bill Clinton, had this to say on Fox News.
Clinton never told the truth to Emanuel. He constantly cut Rahm out. He was afraid of him because Rahm was always in business for Rahm, and Rahm would leak to the Washington Post. He would always make sure his image was perfect, and he had in the back of his mind the political career he now has. And Obama is making a huge mistake in picking this guy, because whenever he does something this guy doesn't like, he's going to read about it on the front page of the newspaper.
What? Dick Morris, himself Jewish, by the way. Rahm Emanuel is a bad sort, he said. And even the President of the United States, Bill Clinton, was scared of him. Is Barack Obama scared of Rahm Emanuel? Well, evidently he's carrying on a love affair with Nancy Pelosi. Check out this picture. Oh, what lovers they are. In fact, here's an article that came out. What would George Washington think about Nancy Pelosi's love affair with Rahm Emanuel? Pretty bad stuff. Well, it's not a surprise because look at Nancy Pelosi. She is always a champion of AIPAC, the powerful Jewish lobby group. Here she is with her own daughter holding up a six-pointed Jewish Israeli flag and demonstrating on behalf of Israel. It was U.S. Senator Ernest Hollings back in 2004 that talked about the power of the Jewish lobby and how they control the U.S. Congress. He said you cannot have an Israeli policy other than what AIPAC, that's the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, gives you around here. I can tell you, he said, no president takes office, I don't care whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, that all of a sudden AIPAC will tell him exactly what the policy is. Now look at Obama. Look at his slavish devotion to Israel. He is indeed Rothschild's choice. Look at these images. Here he is visiting the Yad Vashem Holocaust Museum and Shrine. He lays a wreath. He wears the Yarmulke skull and bones cap at Jerusalem's Wailing Wall on the Temple Mount. He's meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. Here he is courting the Israeli lobby.
And as president, I will never compromise when it comes to Israel's security.
No wonder Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and all of the other Arabs don't stand a chance. This man is indeed the first Jewish president. And so the Jews have given us both a manufactured financial catastrophe and the solution. The solution that their Jewish president, Barack Obama, handpicked by them, lead us into a glorious dawn of a new age. Yes, he will be the water boy of the Illuminati. There will be a new global elite of the Jews. This indeed, again, we get back to the cover of Newsweek magazine. Imagine this cover and all of the strange symbols. They're giving us a message here. Just look at Barack Obama. Smug, confident, some might say arrogant. How proud he must be. Barack Obama, financial butler to Jewish billionaires. Waiter at tables at the annual conclave of the Bilderbergers. Water boy for the Illuminati. Rothschilds' choice. And if Barack Obama is indeed our first Jewish president, if he is in fact Rothschild's choice, then what is his goal? What is the ultimate conclusion that we can reach? Well, we turn to another Rothschild, Baron David de Rothschild. Here he is, giving a speech, giving a talk, and being interviewed. David de Rothschild says the end goal is a new world order and global banking governance. Those are the words of David Rothschild. He ends by saying there will be a new form of global governance. It's not conspiracy theory. It's the truth. It's a new world order. It's a new age. It's a new order of the ages presided over by Rothschild's choice.